For those of you who support a raise to the minimum wage across the country, we've got a little bit more positive evidence for what it could do to make the country better and stronger. It could perhaps save the U.S. government billions of dollars every single year for a reason that you might not expect. But first, a little bit of information about the minimum wage currently. Currently, half of all people earning under $10.10 per hour, as humans say it, roughly 11.9 million Americans receive some form of means-tested benefits from the government, like the Earned Income Tax Credit, food stamps, and others. So for those of you who don't currently make the minimum wage that's been proposed, you're more likely to have some sort of means benefit, government benefit. Mm-hmm. If the minimum wage had been pegged to the overall productivity rate of the U.S. economy since 1968, workers would be earning about $18.42 per hour today.
Jesus Christ.
I've seen that number higher in some studies.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Heads would explode. Like, they're freaking out over $15 an hour. Can you imagine if someone proposed
They're freaking out over $10.10.
Oh my God.
15,
yeah, that's true. That's a very
blood would pour from eye sockets.
Very good point. Which is why I love Obama's. It wasn't even a proposal. It's actually going to happen. All of the new government workers are going to get paid $10.10 an hour, and everyone's like, "Wow!"
They're going to be living high on the hog.
Yeah.
But let's see. What could we actually do for America if we did raise it to the $10.10 that, as Anna said, government workers are going to get? If everybody got it. EPI's report, it's a think tank, found that if minimum wage were boosted from its current level of $7.25 per hour to $10.10, as proposed by the Fair Minimum Wage Act of 2014, more than 1.7 million Americans would no longer have to rely on public assistance programs. This would produce $7.6 billion per year or more in savings for the federal government.
So think about that for a second, because I absolutely love that. This actually reminds me a lot about restaurant industry workers who rely on us paying them tips in order to make ends meet, right? It basically puts all the pressure on the customer to help with the income of these individuals that are working, right? Which means that the business owners don't have to worry about it as much. In some states, they pay as little as, I think it's $2.15.
I at one point was getting like $2.35 as a waiter.
Yeah, it's a little over $2, okay, an hour, which means that after they get taxed, like that money just goes to the government,
zero.
right?
I frequently would get checks that are $0.
Yes, and so they rely solely on their tips, and that puts all the pressure on us to pay them, okay? Yeah. The same is true of people who are getting the current minimum wage, people in the restaurant industry, people who are working at Walmart, at the Walmarts of the country, barely making any money. They are going to rely on government programs that our tax money funds, okay? So that means that all these big corporations and all these business owners just rely on the American taxpayer to take care of their employees.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, but they're fine with the way that it is right now.
They're really the biggest welfare queens. When you really think about, corporations like Walmart, aside from the corporate tax loopholes that they get to take advantage of, they also get to take advantage of the fact that they underpay their employees and the American taxpayer picks up the slack.
Yeah, no, I was reading today that Walmart is saying that they're going to phase out all minimum wage positions in the near future. I hope that means not firing them. They're going to pay them more. They say that there's only 6,000 people at Walmart that currently make minimum wage out of the 1.6 million employees they have, which, considering the number of Walmarts, so they just choose one person at each store to say, you're getting minimum wage, buddy. And by the way, when they say that they only have 6,000 at minimum wage, God knows how many they have at plus 15 cents per hour. But anyway, obviously, so this is good news. It would save a ton of money for the government, $7.6 billion. I mean, that would allow us to waste so much money in unnecessary wars, buying planes and then not using them and things like that. Yeah. You could buy so many more cruise missiles. It would be awesome. But no, we're not currently going to have this $10.10 per hour. We also have this interesting chart, by the way. Can we bring this up and talk about this for just a minute? Showing there the real value of the federal minimum wage. Yeah, I mean, look, you see what we actually have down there in the red line, and then if it had kept pace with U.S. total economic productivity, $19.43 in about a year.
By the way, when there was a point in my life, which was, I don't know, a month ago, when I wasn't making enough money to go out there and actually spend, right? I wouldn't go out there and spend, right? So that meant that all of those businesses out there that are underpaying their employees, they're creating this working class of people who can barely afford to put food on the tables for their children they're not going to go out there and spend on any type of luxury item or whatever it is. You know what I mean? I mean, what stimulates the economy is making sure that you have a strong middle class.
Yeah.
And we're getting away from that, okay? Just so we can make these corporations and millionaires and billionaires even more wealthy. It's a really, really screwed up system.
Yeah.
And when Republicans say that they care about the economy and they care about government waste, think about how disingenuous they are, especially considering all of the unnecessary wars that they fund, and especially considering the fact that they want to keep minimum wage as low as possible so all of these people continue to work long hours and still not have the money that's necessary to live a decent life.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think subconsciously they hope that if they force you in a position where you have to grind it out with multiple jobs, working 50, 60, 70 or more hours per week, you won't have the time or the mental energy left to contemplate how horribly screwed up our political and economic system is.
Yeah.
And they benefit from that. And finally, so we're talking here about the benefits of raising minimum wage. Obviously, there are people who are against it who are going to say, well, if you raise the minimum wage, they're just going to have to throw that onto the products, and so you're going to end up losing the money anyway.
Yeah.
As if the only thing that goes into the price of a product is what they pay the worker. That is a small portion of the total cost, which means that it would only raise the price a very small portion. I mean, we're fighting about trying to get the federal minimum wage to catch up just a little bit with where it should have been based on information from 1976 or something. Like, we should be talking about guaranteed minimum income. Like, there are some places in the world where they're talking about maximum incomes and things like that. And we're here talking about a couple of dollars per hour. The ability to buy one more Big Mac per day. That's what we have to fight for in America. How horribly backwards are we in 2014?